with the drawings again, but it's going to be a changing table. And I'll actually do, I'm going to put a screenshot up there of something that I found on Pinterest. But what I need to do is cut the lumber. So that means I have to do, you know, the math to make sure that what I'm cutting is the right size. So I know the overall height is going to be 34 inches. So, but I don't want to go cut my legs 34 inches because there's going to be, you know, a platform on top of the leg. So in order to know how long to cut my legs, I have to know the thickness of that board. So anyway, so that's what I may be doing here in the next few minutes, is doing a little math. And then I will, you can see these big chunks of wood, I'm going to cut these down into, make the legs out of those. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a massively sturdy thing, because it's going to have a shelf on the bottom and a shelf in the middle, so it'll be sturdy. But this lumber that I got, the neat part about it is this pine that I'm going to use was actually cut down on a little family's house. They had to have it cut down. And the changing table that I'm building is for the grandmother of those people. So it's kind of a neat thing that this is part of their tree, was part of their family. It was cut off of their land, and now it's going to be made into something for their family. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, so let me do some math and then I'll come back. Alright, I've got my 4 legs and they are rough cut. I say that just to make sure you understand they're not finished cut lumber. Got some rough edges on it. It's not squared completely. They are basically the same size, but they need to be squared up, and I can do that in a couple of different ways. I can go to the planer, push them through over and over and over. But I've also got this here. That's my router table. Let's see. This is called a joiner planer. And yes, this is the one that I ran my fingers across the blade and cut my fingers off. I might put another picture of that up there to shock people. I like putting it out there. But you run the boards like this through there, and it flattens whatever side. So you can do the big side and the small side. You stand them up this way, run them this way to get the edge, and then lay them down flat to get that. Because I don't have a ton of room, the machines that I don't use all the time, I just kind of push them up against the wall. And then I've kind of built like a little stand, I guess you call it, on it that it fits on. So I can just plug it in and then just kind of pull it out. I just have to have room for the board to run through here like this. Out like that. You're supposed to use this on the board, not your hands, because that's how your fingers get cut off. We now got our 4 legs, and they are nice and perfectly square on all sides. They're still not cut to length, so that's the part I need to figure next. The portions that are going to be flat on the bottom, the changing station is going to be 16 inches wide. So I don't have a board that's 16 inches wide, so I'm going to cut the ones that I have down to 8 inches, and then I can have 2. So that'll work fine. I think the boards are probably around somewhere between 11 and 12 inches again, because they're not square because they just came off the sawmill. So I'll have to square them up, but I can easily get 8-inch slices out of them. So they're gonna need to be, well, I don't know yet, because the shelves here will be inside the legs, and so the legs are 2 legs are 3.5 inches, and so if it's 34 inches, you know, the inside pieces need to be, what, 30.5 inches. But the top piece, the piece that's going to be on the very top, where the baby's they're gonna put like a pad on top of this, the changing pad, that portion is going to be all the way, maybe even hanging over a little bit. Alright, I've got my 2 top boards cut down to the correct length and width. Took 2 of them to go together and make the top. But now I need to flatten, because they need to be run through the planer, because they're, I think you can kind of see it's going woo-woo-woo. So I need to flatten these on the planer. You're sitting on it, so you're gonna have to move. These boards are too wide this way to go on my joiner planer that we used to square up the legs. So I've got it roughly where I want it. So I'll run over with the hand sander with a really rough piece, and then we'll go down to like 100 and just kind of smooth it out a little bit. These are really smooth now, and so this being the top, because this is pine and it's fairly fresh cut, when you bring it into the house where the temperatures are really dry and warm, it's going to shrink more, because this hasn't been sitting out for, you know, a year or so. So I'm not going to like try to attach this, you know, like glue it and clamp it together and put biscuits and all that kind of stuff on there, because it's going to separate. There's going to be a crack there. But that's going to be okay, because this is just to hold the changing pad on top of it. Now I'm going to build a rail that goes around the outside edge, not to hold the baby on, but just to hold that pad in place, because they're just laying the baby up here, changing, and then, you know. So my overall measurement was, the changing pad is 16 inches. So I made this a little bit wider to give me room to decide how thick of a border I'm going to put on. These will be the boards that I use for the rail. Like that'll be the end and this will be the side. You know, standing them up. And then the changing pad will be in there. These are really, again, same. They're not square, pretty rough, so I'm going to run them through the planer about 1,000,000 times. What I want to do is come from this side down and just secure it really good. Look at all this sawdust we made. That's like piles and piles. Like, that'll clean, be enough for the chicken pen for a month or more. Alright, we're going to come over here. I want to secure that down really good. This top piece, make sure it's real secure. This is roughly where it'll stand, and so I'm gonna cut some pieces to go here, so that the shelf, I have a shelf on the bottom and a shelf in the middle. So I'm gonna cut these braces. Well, it's coming along. Now I have to build the shelf for that there and there. And then it's pretty sturdy right now, but that will really sturdy it up. Alright, you can kind of see now the bottom with these. And I've got 2 more here, but I need a measurement. Got the changing table built. Now I just need to go through and sand it really good because there will be baby and little children around it. I want to make sure I get all of the edges very smooth so there's no splinters. Alright, on the bottom side, I'm going to cut some strips to put along where I married these two. I feel like that it's going to shrink once it's in the house because the dryness of the house is going to draw more of the moisture out of the wood than just being outside. So I feel like there'll be a crack. And that, I mean, it's okay. I just, looking into the future, if I put something here that will keep the boards from doing this. So I got the board planed down. I got a smooth side. I put some glue. Glue just helps. It doesn't really have to have it. Over time, I think it'll help a little bit. So I just put it in the center. Because again, I'm sure that these boards are going to shrink up a little bit. Screws just help. You can put nails or staples, but screws will have a better strength on them. My kind of final step is going to be putting a little wood filler on. It's totally not necessary, but I just think it looks cleaner. So I'll put some of this on and then I'll come back and sand it. let it dry for just a few minutes. I'll probably come back and hand sand because it just takes a light sanding. And then we'll be done. I mean, yeah, we'll be done. Here we have another project done. I think it turned out pretty nice. It's a, whoops, changing table, and they have the pad that they're gonna fit in there. I think she's probably gonna stain it, but it turned out pretty nice. Another project done.